he gave us two questions last week. We're on the end of the chower on the law of the big momentum. So we should all know all that, right? And the two questions John gave us were, what obstacles to momentum are you currently facing? The second question will be, what will it take to overcome them? So does anybody want to go first about what obstacle is holding you back? Don't everybody speak at once. Michael, if you guys could use your virtual hands, that would help. So I saw Michael. Go ahead. You're muted. I see you talking.
Okay, can you hear me now?
There you go. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll keep it short to give everybody else a chance to comment. But so question one was, what obstacles are you currently facing? And for me, I mean, these kind of questions are a look into the mirror, looking at yourself. And so one of my obstacles to momentum is probably lingering too long on prospects that appear to be interested, but they procrastinate when it comes to viewing information you may have shared with them. And lingering too long, hoping you can somehow, I don't want to use the wrong word because we know we don't convince anybody, we sort people. So, you're hoping that during that short stretch you can convince them to take that look. So that's one of mine, lingering too long, and also being inconsistent. This is an honest look at myself right now. So,
well, good for you. Yeah, those are both things that'll cause us to procrastinate when we're holding off, waiting on other people. All we're doing is procrastinating from moving on. And you just spoke to me. I mean, yes, I do that too. I was just talking to a woman before this call, and part of me was thinking, why am I still talking to this woman? I mean, she clearly will not have our services when she's telling me that she wants to see if we're legal or not. Really throw it out, keep moving. We are taking each individual too seriously, and it's holding us each back. So I absolutely agree with that. Regina, you had your hand up.
Yes, so the one thing that's probably holding me back is sticking to my schedule. So I have the times blocked that I make calls, and the first one is at 10:30, and then this morning I wasn't ready at 10:30. I know I can move it around, but I know that I'm more productive when I stick to that time that I have blocked out from 10:30 to 11 for my first time block. Yeah, that's the thing. So tomorrow I am going to be vigilant about that.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that and priorities too, right? Alexis.
I don't know if it's a Colorado thing or because Regina and I are buds, but that's the same thing I was going to say. I'm fortunate enough to be on a mastermind class, a mastermind Zoom call every morning at 6 a.m. with Miss Teresa Johnson. And when we do deep dives into books, applying those skills that we learned are so crucial and very important for growth. And consistency, like the brother was just saying just before Regina, if you get that consistency piece down, the flow is amazing. And call blocking, I'm the same. If I hit that first call block and then it's like, well, call me at this time. So you then either have an appointment or a follow-up, then it starts to flow and then it keeps you motivated. But if you're not consistent, if you don't follow up, oh, I'll call them tomorrow. Didn't sound too good. I'll wait a few days. If you lose that rhythm, that's the word I want to say. The rhythm is what keeps me motivated when I can make my calls, get it done, and complete goals and be able to say, oh, that was a good day. Let's do it again tomorrow. So motivation comes for me when you're consistent and when you are meeting those daily tasks. Thank
Good way
you.
to, yeah, absolutely. Let's see, I don't see any more hands up right now. Who else?
John Dome, I don't know how to put your hand up on on my phone. I
Oh,
try
at the
to do that.
bottom, well, that's okay. You can, for now.
It doesn't matter. But mine is too many priorities and then consistency. I mean, every day I'm going out when I'm doing my other job. If I see a truck or a van or any car that passes by me that has a business on it, I take a snapshot, I write it down, I put that in my phone, and then I'm calling on it. And also when I'm dealing with working with the Kiwanis, and I also act as the secretary, and then I deal with a business referral group, and I'm the secretary there. I was vice president,
Mhm.
and I'm putting out other people's fires, or I'm working with different decision making processes. And like today, this morning, I got up and we had a student of the month, teacher of the month, where I met with the superintendent. I met with all the school districts and stuff like that. But it's just like on a day-to-day basis, and sometimes just being consistent with my call times, my follow-up, and doing my plan, do a review for me. And I know I'm starting to lock and load on that. I'm getting better, but
Good.
I have to remind myself it's a day-to-day process. And Juwan, you guys all motivated, but Juwan's like John and my field trainers always, you guys are always in the back of my mind, and so I'm working it and making my call throughs. But it's also when I'm dealing with businesses that put me out to another week, or they always put me out sometimes, and it's just I'm doing constant follow up, but it's also filling the pipeline. So I'm really filling my pipeline, and it's been a lot of hard work. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like to say it's easy peasy, but it's not. It's a lot of hard work. Um,
John,
and things are starting to happen, but I'm
it
just gonna
sounds
leave it
like,
at that.
it sounds like your motivation is getting blocked, but because you haven't planned follow-up time, maybe. We don't have to follow up immediately. We can set a time to follow up. I don't know that it, right? From person to person, but I have trouble with that too. I want to follow up immediately with people. Oh, I've got to follow up with them right now. No, I don't. You try to call somebody, some of the really top people in the company. Many of you know Jason Lavender. Man, it's hard to get that guy. He calls people back at a specific time of day. He doesn't look at his clock, his phone before that. And so again, it's that time blocking and stuff. Alexis, did you have another question, and did you forget to put your hand down? I think, okay, Branda, you're muted.
Number one, obstacle to momentum. I just think just in doing this business, anything in the business is called programming. I've never had a traditional job, but I'm imagining if you've had an 8 to 5, 9 to 5, or whatever. I mean, we are taught from grade school to be a slave. That means be an employee. And so it's really easy. You show up to work, you do what you're told, and you go home. So we're so programmed to be told what to do. And then for me, since I've not been a normal person like that, as a golf teacher, independent contractor, if I didn't give a lesson, I don't eat. So if I don't teach, I don't eat. So I was always out hustling, making sure I'm visible, calling students, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, because you need that book of business along with your new business. So I think for a lot of us, to be in network marketing is so just a different vehicle, and that doesn't mean that we can't do it. So through our personal development, and just like last night, I wrote out my list. I wrote out a list of at least 10 things to accomplish today. And the 3 that I accomplished was personal health wise. Yeah. And having I'm really making the priorities on my list. Do the hardest things first thing in the morning. That's how I can accomplish that. Back to you, Jane.
Then you might want to take the next 3 things on your list and do those first tomorrow before you do the next things, so that we get things done, right? But it's all about keeping that momentum. Juan, I want to hear what you have to say. What's up?
So I got a laundry list here because at the top of the month, I always write down the bottlenecks in my business. So this call is kind of like right on time. But there is something I wanted to share earlier. I think it may have been, is he still here? Yeah, John's still here. I do believe the fortune is in immediate follow-up, but what I try to do is schedule appointments for follow-ups, right? So if I share a tool with somebody, I'm going to ask them, when you going to get around to taking a look at it, right? Because otherwise, 90% of the time they're not. You got to schedule an appointment, right? And if someone says, I'll ask, are you going to be available morning or afternoon tomorrow? If they say afternoon, I already have time slots in the afternoon where I'm willing to do my follow-up, right?
Okay.
And so if they say afternoon, I'll say, okay, well, how about 1 or 2? Because I know that's when I'm available, right? If they say evening, I have an event tomorrow, so the only time slots I could follow up with someone is probably going to be either 6 p.m. or 8:30 p.m., right?
Yeah.
And I kind of steer them into that. You know what I mean? Because if you don't schedule that immediate follow-up, I call it an appointment. Like I'm literally setting an appointment to touch base with you, really, so I can get that 3-way call going, right? So I wanted to share that. But so I have 6 challenges. I'm only going to address 3 of them, but I have 6 challenges. So I need to create another executive director leg. So I missed silver executive director by literally 5 memberships last month. So I was a little bit annoyed about that. But if you've been in the business longer than 2 minutes, you want balance, right? So I need to literally rebuild a whole new organization to create balance in my business. So my income isn't this, right? I want it to be more consistent, right? So that's something I need to really concentrate on, as opposed to helping everybody else go ED. I actually need to create a new exec director leg altogether, right? I need to ensure that everyone in the organization has 3 skills. There's a lot of things we need to be able to do, but I just firmly believe if you know how to do exposures, if you know how to do presentations, and if you understand how to do 3 ways, everything else will take care of itself. So from beginning to end, I want to make sure everybody in the organization are not masters, but they're at least competent at exposures, presentations, and 3 ways. And I would add referrals there too, right? I need to meet new people. I average about 20 to 25 exposures per week. But it's sometimes it's a strain. So I need to find a more effective way to meet people. And then some of the stuff is organizational, but I need a centralized place where people can, like, we have well over a dozen Performance Club qualifiers, et cetera, right? I want them to feel more involved. So I'm going to create a landing page where it's not just pictures of people who Performance Club qualify, but I want their testimonies, right? I want that 1 minute, 2 minute testimony. And that way we can use Performance Club as more of a sales tool as well when people are looking to see if they want to join us, right? And then I need to order my ring. I didn't order my ring. So now it's time to order that ring. So when I'm sitting down in front of people, I can tap that ring on the table. Make sure you understand what's going on here. So those are the things that I'm going to look to address. I'm only going to end up probably addressing only 3 of them, but those are the items on my to-do list where I know if I address those things, it will continue the momentum.
Awesome. Jesserine. You're muted.
Yes, yes. Okay, my obstacles. I have a lot of stuff going on, but I'm not going to let those distractions keep me back. I do meet a lot of contacts, business owners, but they I'm not meeting the right ones who wants to most of them wants to me to come on board with them. All of them that say, oh, I had Legal Shield, I know about Legal Shield, and then they want to go into a conversation trying to lead you, into their business. And I have to get more courageous in cutting them off. Cut the conversations. I do set appointments and I do follow-ups. And I need a strong team. I bring people on board and they lose their momentum soon. They go out and they get a few no's and they can't find anybody else to talk with, but they don't plug in. And so, encourage them, that they have to come in. They cannot open a business and don't tell people about it. You have to keep on spreading the goodness about your business, right? And then, just continue doing follow-up and trying to get PC early. After the 15, I am panicking. So that is what I'm not, I'm pushing there. So, and I'm making it, trying to, but it's working, but it will get better.
Thank you. Anybody have any more comments to that? Do you want to move on to the next chapter, Brenda? Brenda, did you want to move on to the next chapter? I said.
It's
So,
good with me if it's good with the group.
has everybody read the law of priorities? Everybody has? Looks like the ones that are unmuted, the ones that have their videos open. Okay, good. Okay, well, yeah, then let's do this, you guys. Starting on the very first page, I love it when somebody says something that, there's three things. The first thing that he says about being busy and that we naturally believe that we're achieving just because we're busy. And that's not, as we all know, busyness is not the case, right? It's not necessarily, I love that it says activity is not necessarily accomplishment. And we have to remember that when we're doing all these things that we do all day long. And the prioritizing for leaders is thinking ahead. Like Joanne, you're talking about, you already know now you need a new leg of a team, right? You're looking ahead to where it is. And it doing things that are less that are causes us to do things that are the least uncomfortable. We need to get out of we need to stop that. We know better. We know that we need to be uncomfortable if we want to get anywhere. And I love the next story with the quote there from Stephen Covey, how John Maxwell was, looking for what city does he want to move to. And, a leader is the one who climbs the tallest tree, surveys the entire situation and yells, "Wrong jungle." And that's how John decided because of what he does, speaking all over the place, he chose Atlanta, perfect hub. Because, what an incredible hub to be able to fly anywhere, and get home like within a day. I loved what he had to say there. Anybody want to chime in here, please? Come on, y'all. I know you have thoughts.
I had a thought. I like the first responsibility of the leader is to define the reality, which is basically what you're saying. It's the wrong jungle. And And I think that the leadership, the vision is that the macro vision compared to maybe the rest of the people that are kind of stuck in, have you ever heard that story about asking two masons what they're doing? And the first one says, I'm laying bricks. And the other one doing the very same thing says, I'm building a cathedral.
Right.
And I think that vision, if the leader has that, the other people then can visualize, but they don't necessarily have all those moving parts yet. So to me, that's important. But the other thing is about eating the elephant first, or, the list. One of my mentors, I'm a nurse practitioner. So wearing a white lab coat, John Maddox, who had been an Army person, but he'd show up. He always had his little 3x5. He, rest in peace, he passed last year, but a 3x5 card, index card, and it would always be visible. And I would just watch him all day long when he had his list, and the minute he did something, he pulled that out, drew a line through it. And then he always said, like somebody mentioned that the next day, what didn't get done went to the top of the next day's list. But he was very good with boundaries. And there's two books that I think are helpful for people trying to do anything, basically. And one is called Boundaries. It's well worth the read. The other, yeah, I see heads nodding. The other one that I like is The One Thing, because, you're looking at what is the most important domino that's going to push everything, and if you can identify that domino and do that, and then what is the next domino? What is the next domino? Instead of being completely distracted and getting pulled from the main thing, the one thing at a time, and do it well, So that's it. That's all I had.
Funny you say that, Patty. I've got The One Thing. I've got the book. I don't know where it is now. It's because I keep ordering books. I've got so many books I need to read, and that's one of them. So I'm glad you brought that up. Does anybody want else to add into that what Patty just said?
Sure. This is John Doan from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and it kind of leads into everything that we're talking about with the law of momentum, or the big Mo, and going in. Priorities is focus based, and it teaches when I was in commercial aviation, we planned, do, and reviewed. You have to be able to plan out from point A to point B, and you have to go through everything, and you had to be focused on what your priorities were. So, if you're flying along and you have an engine out, you have to remember that you fly the airplane first, and then you have to bring out the checklist. Then you have to go through the checklist and make sure that you do the appropriate procedures to shut the engine down. And then you finalize it by doing redoing the checklist one more time to make sure that you got everything correct, and then you communicate. Whereas in this business, you got to be able to plan out your day, like you're saying. You have to have your goals ready to go. You have to have your future goals of what you want, and you have to have that on the tip of the iceberg too, as well. Because if you forget about that and you start focusing on one area, it's kind of like, you see that shiny object and you go for that, it's going to take you off the ball. What I loved hearing Dave Savola saying is you got to put the horse blinders on. And I'm just like everybody else. Sometimes I don't keep the horse blinders on, and that's really important. Because in getting the nose, those nose can actually take you off the ball. If a person is putting I always treat it like I'm playing football, like your 15 days to get your PC. That's really important to me because I kind of freak out after 15 days. And I'm not going to go on too much more on that, but it is important to be focused, to know your plan, to do your plan, to execute it, and then to be able to review how you can better yourself. Could you have done a 3-way? Could you call the field trainer? Could you call your executive director? And if you can't get a hold of them, do you have your other plan to be able to call other people that you know, like, and trust, that you know you can count on, and they'll be there. Come, rain or shine, they'll be there. Or they'll be able to get back to you within time frame, because sometimes important events are right, happen right there, and you just got to be ready. So I hope that helps out.
Absolutely. Regina, looks like you have a question because we need to keep moving with the chapter. Regina, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You had a question.
No, I don't have a question. No, go ahead.
Joanne, you have a question, or what? You want to say something? You're muted.
Oh, no, I didn't have a question. I thought we were just having a discussion about the chapter. So I was just gonna.
Oh, no, go ahead. We are at this point. We are. You know how John usually goes through the chapter, but go ahead.
Okay. I don't know. The greatest thing I took from that chapter, and I think Mr. Osman mentioned it. I think he actually mentioned it, if not the previous time he was on here. And I think about the Pareto principle a lot, right? How 20% of people carry 80% of the weight, right? And I think about that even in relationship. Some of the commentary was made, like, I know a lot of people, oftentimes you onboard new associates and you get frustrated because sometimes they don't show up for themselves, right? They don't show up on the calls. They don't do the activity. Some of them won't even go to Fast Start training, right? Can't get them to show up for yourself, but you have to remember the Pareto principle, that the bottom line is for every 100 associates you on board, I mean, if you follow that principle, really 20 out of 100, that's kind of gonna be it. You know what I mean? And when you put it in, and when you think about it like that, you better are able to deal with the reality of it, right? When that expectation is there. And then if you're looking for people who are going to performance go qualify and rank advance and go on to ED, well, then you got to apply to that 20, right? 20% carry 80% of the weight. But if you start looking for people to step up as leaders, well, then you got to apply it again to those 20. And so what does that mean? That means out of 100 people, you're probably only going to have about 4 or 5 people who are really, leading the thing. So, I would encourage people to remember that. And then the other thing I think about when I think about the law of priority is it's so easy to get busy doing so many other things when you're an entrepreneur. I mean, it's not just a legal issue, it's an entrepreneur thing. Like, most of us are our brains are kind of all over the place, right? Because we're thinking about all the different things we got to do in our business. But, if you keep it simple, right? I think oftentimes people refer to it as phase 1, right? Stay in phase 1. So what's phase 1? Exposures, 3 ways, presentations, referrals. If you do those things, 9 times out of 10, everything else will handle itself, right? As opposed to running around doing all these other things, concerning yourself with other things. And, people spend so much time occupied. It's like mind your own business. Like, when I say mind, I mean like MINE. Mind your own business, right? People spend so much time paying their minds to other people's stuff. Like, you lock in and stay in phase 1. That'll handle everything else. Stay out of other people's affairs. Stay out of other people's business. Focus on your focus, right? So those are my thoughts when I think about the law of priorities.
Hey, Jawan, what was that? Exposures, 3 ways, the third one, and then referrals?
So exposures, 3 ways, presentations, referrals. If you stay in phase 1, you stay locked in on those things, good things will happen, right? Because if you're enrolling members, you're going to be enrolling associates. And if you're asking for referrals, well, then you don't have to cold call, right? So, I mean, yes. It's like a circular, you win in a circular way that way.
Thank you, sir.
Well, okay, go ahead, Michael.
Okay, so first of all, Juwan, very good stuff. Very knowledgeable. I love listening to the information you bring to these calls. I think that one of the things we may not do, and this again, I'm looking at me, is we might give people time to grow. We're looking at them to be where we are. We saw the vision. We know the vision, and then when someone comes in, we figure they're just supposed to just know that and understand it as well. We need to give people time to grow. In the business world, and everyone on here at some point, even before leadership, has some type of business knowledge. And so we know that businesses grow in time. You partner up with someone, and then because a week or two later, they're not where you are, or even a month, or sometimes even a year later, they're not where you are. But you don't give up on them. You stay focused, like you focused on what you're supposed to be doing, and keep them connected, plugged in, and encourage them. And eventually it will or will not happen. But I think that's important.
Absolutely.
May I ask a question? I'm not good about raising my hand either, whoever said that. That one of the things that I struggle with is, we're not supposed to prejudge, but you kind of get a feel for who's self-motivated and driven. And speaking of the Pareto, the 80-20 rule, the one thing that I struggle with is, yes, we're looking for leaders, especially like listening to John Hoffman. I mean, leadership is key, but in leadership, one of the things is if you micromanage, and I know that shouldn't fit in terms of what we do because we're working with people that are choosing to be 1099s. But like me, for 38 years with linear income, whoever spoke to that in terms of changing the paradigm, your mindset has to change. And you're your own boss. You don't get to complain about your boss. Well, yes, you do. But you know what I mean? You don't go home and say, nah, 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 nah. It's like you go home and say, why didn't I do a better job today? You fire yourself one day and hire yourself the next. But in terms of leadership, the term micromanage to me just means you're telling somebody, I don't trust you. So I'm going to come in and take the reins and so there's a fine line between, and who was it? I think it was 2 weeks ago, but somebody on this call, I think, made the statement of you have to let go of the reins and let people find their motivation. So to me, it's a fine line between, giving them we'd have to coach. I understand that. And we have to nurture. But at some point, if we turn somebody off that they're feeling that they're being micromanaged, we're going to lose them anyway, because they're going to perceive it more as a job, because people are, until they can understand, really what we're trying to accomplish is to share the learning, to duplicate the system. So that's one of my issues. The other question I have for everybody is with retention rates and knowing the 80-20 rule, then at this point in my career here, I'm wondering if as earned makes more sense for me than daily pay, whatever. I mean, I think that as earned might be helpful for my mindset to not be, we've got to be concerned about retention, but obviously a lot of people do come and go. So I wondered if anybody had input regarding that. And I know one of the big earners, Will Dadsey, had shared with us on a Super Saturday that he got a shock one year with the amount of, payback basically. And then he decided to go to an as earned status. So I'm not in a big level of production. I've spent my time basically learning and prepping, but I'm on the precipice of doing that. And that question has been in my mind probably since his Super Saturday, because
Well, Patty, you can call up Associate Services and get some consultation on that.
oh no, I mean, I understand the difference, but I mean, you guys are pretty, you've been at this. So I mean, do you have any, I understand the concept. I'm just asking what anybody can
Okay,
contribute.
I think that Joanne might have something to say to that, but Regina, you've had your hand up.
Oh,
You want to go ahead and
sorry.
ask your question, Regina, and then Joanne can help go from there, and then we'll close it out.
Okay, and so when I was looking at this and it was the 3 R's, that was my 3 R's. What's required of me? What's the reward for doing it? And what's the other R?
Return.
Return. What's the return on it? So what's required of me is what must I do that nobody can or should do for me? Like Juwan was saying, we've got to do our own exposures, our own follow-ups, our own referrals, our own networking. Nobody can do that for us. Our own, setting up our 3-way calls. And so then there's things, that around the house, that do I really need to do this? So like, it's like, let me do a membership so I have a lady that comes and cleans my house once a month, thoroughly does a deep clean because that takes up too much of my time and energy. So, letting somebody else do something, I'm capable of doing it, but there's someone else that's her business. Let her do it so I can do my business. And so the return on that and the reward on that is my house is clean and I don't have to do it and I can spend time on my business.
Absolutely. Joanne, you want to close us out?
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement with Ms. Lehman. I mean, really, whether you're as earned or if you're taking money up front, I think a lot of it has to do with philosophy, right? Because there's two schools of thought on that. Some people say get all your money up front, right? Why not? Why wouldn't you take it all up front? You'll hear people say that. And then you also hear people say, well, I like the idea of going as earned because of, once again, that consistency, that, predictability, that, those advanced recoveries. You don't deal with that when you're on as earned, at least not like you are when you're taking advances, right? So, man, I really do think that's an individual thing. I really do. I noticed that people from my background, because I toy around with thinking about it all the time, but that's what I was accustomed to. As a former investment advisor, I was paid as earned on everything pretty much. So I'm accustomed to that. It feels familiar to me. But then again, let's be real, some individuals join the company and they don't have time for as earned. Like they're back against the wall, about to lose the car, the house, the marriage. They're in dire straits, and as earned can be, I mean, advanced income can be a lifesaver to them. So I really do believe it depends on your situation. I really do. I was thinking about something because you asked like 3 questions in one. So I'm not going to touch all 3 questions because we'll be here for a while. But the thing I'm thinking the most about that you said was the how to go about managing new business partners, right? And yeah, when people are, you have to get people's permission, I guess is what I would say. You have to get people's permission. And then a lot of this is more art than science too, right? I was talking to the team earlier today and I told them how I don't mind getting coached hard, right? I spoke to a ring earner today and that ring earner coached me pretty hard. It was with respect, but it was hard and it was harsh and it was to the point. But I like that, right? I don't get emotional. I don't have thin skin. I'd rather you tell me the hard stuff I need to hear then pat me on the hand and let me go out there and make my boo-boos and take forever to win. No. Let's get this over with. Right? Let's pull this cab. Tell me what I got to do so I can get after it. Right? As harsh as it needs to be, I want to hear it. Right? And there's an art to that because not everybody can handle that. On the flip side of it, though, I'm just a firm believer that, yeah, you are an entrepreneur, but this is a business model. You're not buying legal services, you're buying the business model, right? And it's like, if you get into a BMW that's a stick and you try to drive it like an automatic, we know what's gonna happen, right? If you put Kool-Aid in the fuel tank, we know what's gonna happen, right? So you're buying a business model that's produced over 30,000 business partners. I mean, there are companies that don't have 30,000 people. We got over 30,000 partners knocking down residual incomes and well over 1,000. I mean, just in Shield Nation alone, right? Don't we have like over 100 ring earners? And the majority of those ring earners are like six-figure ring earners. Ain't talking about the 50K ring earners, talking about six-figure ring earners. There's a system here. And I feel personally like it's my responsibility to tell you what that system is and to guide you within the framework of that system. And if you're not willing to follow that system, it's okay. But what that also means is I'm going to use the Pareto principle. I will set my priorities and you're going to go to the end of the line. When you want a phone call, I'm not going to be as responsive. When you need emails, I'm not going to be as responsive. If you need help with something, I'm not going to be, if you're operating outside of the system, then I got to put some distance between you and I got to spend time with the people who are operating within the system, right? So, you know, oftentimes when we onboard people, we fall in love with them, or we tend to spend time with the people that we like the most, you know, that we get along with the most, right? Let's be real. That's what we do oftentimes. And that's the advantage of being an entrepreneur. Well, you need to learn to like the people who are coachable and productive in the system, right? And so that's what I would say to that. No, we can't tell people what to do. It's a little bit of art there, right? I need you. Can I have your permission? Right? I mean, are you really serious? Can I? Because if you're really serious about that, I need your permission. I need your permission to tell you things you want to hear, but I also need your permission to tell you things that you need to hear. And if I can't get that permission from you, I can't coach you. And if I'm not the one to coach you, maybe I can introduce you to someone else who can. You know what I mean? And that's at least the philosophy I've taken when it comes to onboarding people and coaching people. And hopefully that makes sense.
Helpful, yeah. Thank you. I mean, that could be a powerful training in itself. Regina, I loved what you had to say, the 3 R's, powerful stuff there. We'll probably continue, of course, here. I'll tell John we got as far as the 3 R's in any case, and we'll go from there. But we were trying to keep it. I mean, John wants to keep the call normally to 30 minutes, but most of it, we just don't even get talk until 30 minutes into it. That's just the way it is. That's how, you know. But and we could go ahead and keep talking about this all night, and it's all great stuff. So let's call it a night here. Powerful ending, Regina, or if we'll start up next week with John, and we'll continue with this chapter. So great thoughts, good stuff. And you know what, I was going to say one last thing, Patty, you might want to consider that under the what gives the greatest return is that you should spend most of your time working in areas of your greatest strength. Stop worrying about how you get paid. You'll get paid, right?
Yeah, no, that's
spend our time where we need to be.
It's difficult for me because money is not my motivator. Right. I mean, I know money is important, but then, you know, like Joanne said, I can't let that be a bias because there are people that so I don't talk about as earned with anybody. I just, well, you know, I don't know.
Yeah,
it is a
that's all right.
Decision. Yeah.
Just wanted to put that out there. So you guys have a great evening. We'll continue with this chapter next week. Have a good night, and thank you all for everything.
Thank you, Jane.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good
Great
week.
Stuff.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
Bye.